There comes a moment in every life that cannot be measured by clocks or calendars. It is not announced by thunder, nor delivered by applause. It arrives quietly, often after years of carrying burdens that were never ours to hold. It slips into the soul like the first light of dawn touching a dark horizon, and suddenly everything that once seemed ordinary begins to look different. The world has not changed, but the eyes through which you see it have. That is the day you finally realize your worth. Before that day, many people spend years asking for permission to exist as they are. They apologize for taking up space. They lower their voices so others can feel louder. They shrink their dreams to fit inside someone else's comfort. They wear smiles that hide storms and carry wounds that no one notices because they have become experts at pretending to be unbreakable. They begin to believe that love must be earned through sacrifice, that respect must be begged for, and that acceptance comes only after changing everything that makes them unique. But no soul was born to spend its lifetime asking the world whether it deserves to shine. The truth waits patiently. It does not scream, it whispers. It waits through disappointments, through betrayals, through lonely nights and silent tears. It waits while people misunderstand you. It waits while doors close and voices tell you that you are not enough. It waits because truth knows something fear does not. Truth knows that every human heart carries a value that cannot be measured by success, applause, appearance, wealth, or approval. The day you realize your worth is not the day the world finally notices you. It is the day you stop waiting for the world to notice. What freedom lives inside that realization? You stop chasing those who celebrate your absence more than your presence. You stop explaining your kindness to people who mistake it for weakness. You stop watering gardens where nothing grows. You discover that peace is more valuable than proving yourself right, and self-respect is richer than empty admiration. Something extraordinary begins to happen. The shoulders that carried unnecessary guilt begin to straighten. The voice that once trembled begins to speak with calm confidence. The eyes that searched desperately for approval begin to look inward and discover a strength that has been waiting there all along. Worth is a remarkable thing. It does not increase because someone praises you. It does not disappear because someone rejects you. It is not created by titles. It is not destroyed by failure. It is not borrowed from another person. It belongs to you before anyone ever decides whether they like you. A mountain does not become smaller because someone refuses to climb it. The ocean does not lose its depth because someone stands only at the shore. The stars do not stop burning because clouds hide them for a single night. In the same way, your value does not vanish simply because someone failed to recognize it. How many beautiful hearts have questioned themselves simply because they were standing in rooms where nobody understood their light? Imagine a diamond buried beneath layers of earth. For years it remains unseen. It is stepped on. It is forgotten. It is surrounded by darkness. Yet throughout all those years it never becomes ordinary stone. Its value remains untouched by the ignorance of those walking above it. Human beings are much the same. There are seasons when life buries you beneath disappointment. Seasons when loss becomes a language you know too well. Seasons when every dream seems delayed and every prayer seems unanswered. Yet even then your worth remains untouched. Circumstances may cover it, but they cannot erase it. The greatest prison is not built from iron bars. It is built from believing that you are less than you truly are. Once that prison begins to crumble, everything changes. You no longer compete with another person's journey because you understand your own path carries a different purpose. You celebrate others without feeling diminished. You forgive without becoming foolish. You love without abandoning yourself. You give generously without allowing yourself to be emptied. That is maturity. That is wisdom. That is quiet strength. There will always be voices eager to define you. Some will measure you by your mistakes. Others will reduce you to your appearance, your background, your failures, or your circumstances. If you hand them the pen that writes your identity, you will spend your life reading chapters that were never yours. Take the pen back, write your own story, not with arrogance but with honesty, not with pride but with dignity, not to prove your greatness, but to remember your humanity. Your story deserves your own handwriting. Every scar you carry tells evidence of survival rather than defeat. Every disappointment has taught you something comfort never could. Every moment you believed you could not continue has quietly become proof that you already possess more strength than you once imagined. Perhaps the world celebrates perfection too loudly. But life has always admired perseverance. Flowers bloom after storms. Forests grow after fire. Morning follows every night without asking permission from darkness. Nature has never confused temporary struggle with permanent identity. Neither should you. There will still be difficult days after you realize your worth. Pain does not disappear overnight. Grief does not suddenly lose its weight. Challenges continue to arrive because that is the nature of life. The difference is this: you face them no longer believing they define you. You understand that hardship is an event, not an identity. Failure is an experience, not a name. Rejection is a moment, not a life sentence. And hope becomes something stronger than optimism. Hope becomes a decision. The decision to keep walking, the decision to keep believing, the decision to keep rising. There is extraordinary beauty in people who finally discover themselves after years of searching everywhere else. They laugh differently. They stand differently. They forgive differently. Their kindness is no longer rooted in fear of rejection, but in confidence. Their generosity no longer seeks applause. Their compassion no longer requires recognition. Such people become safe places for others because they have first become safe places within themselves. Imagine what the world would become if every child grew up knowing their worth before learning comparison. Imagine how many broken hearts would remain whole, how many dreams would survive, how many voices would finally be heard. How much unnecessary suffering would disappear if people understood that value is something carried within, not handed out by strangers. The world often teaches people to measure themselves against impossible standards. Yet the soul has never spoken the language of comparison. The soul speaks only the language of truth. And truth says this: you were never meant to become a copy. You were always meant to become yourself. There is no greater victory than that. No trophy shines brighter. No applause lasts longer. No achievement reaches deeper. To know your worth is to stand firmly even when the wind insists you should fall. It is to choose kindness without surrendering dignity. It is to love deeply without losing yourself. It is to walk away from what diminishes your spirit and toward what allows it to breathe freely. One day you will look back on the years you doubted yourself, and compassion will replace regret. You will understand that every difficult season prepared you for this awakening. Every closed door redirected your steps. Every heartbreak strengthened your heart. Every obstacle quietly carved space for wisdom to grow. Nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the waiting, not the silence. Not even the moments you believed you had nothing left, because all of it led you here, to the place where you finally understand that your existence has never depended on another person's opinion. Your worth has always been your own, and when you truly believe that, you walk differently through the world. You no longer seek permission to dream. You no longer fear your reflection. You no longer confuse acceptance with belonging. You become rooted, steady, and unshaken, not because life has become easier, but because you have finally remembered something life could never take away. The day you finally realize your worth is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of the first day you live, as though you have always mattered. And perhaps the greatest miracle is not that the world finally sees your light, but that you finally stop asking the darkness to tell you whether you deserve to shine. There are people who will never understand the quiet revolution that takes place inside a human heart. They will notice the confidence, but they will not see the years of uncertainty that came before it. They will admire the courage, but they will never witness the countless moments when fear nearly won. They will celebrate the success, yet remain unaware of the invisible battles that shaped every step forward. What they call confidence was built from endurance. What they call strength was born from choosing to rise again and again, even when no one was watching. It is remarkable how easily the world can convince people that they must become something else before they deserve joy. It whispers that happiness belongs only to the successful, that peace belongs only to the fortunate, that respect belongs only to the powerful. Yet life continues to prove otherwise. Some of the richest spirits have owned very little, while some of the loudest applause has echoed around hearts that still felt empty. The measure of a life has never rested in possessions. It has always rested in the quiet certainty that no circumstance has the authority to define the value of a human soul. Every person carries gifts that cannot be wrapped, sold, or displayed. Compassion that comforts the grieving, wisdom that guides the uncertain, laughter that heals a weary room, patience that gives another person the courage to continue. These treasures often go unnoticed because they do not glitter beneath bright lights. Yet they are the very things that hold communities together and keep hope alive when everything else seems uncertain. There comes a time when you begin to recognize these gifts within yourself, not with pride that seeks attention, but with gratitude that welcomes responsibility. You understand that your voice was not given merely to fill silence, but to speak truth with kindness. Your hands were not made only to reach for success, but to lift those who have forgotten how to stand. Your experiences, even the painful ones, become bridges instead of barriers. They allow you to recognize another person's struggle without judgment and offer encouragement without pretending to have all the answers. It is then that comparison begins to lose its power. You stop measuring your chapter against someone else's ending. You stop believing that another person's brilliance somehow steals from your own. The sky has never asked one star to dim because another has begun to shine. Rivers do not compete with mountains, nor does the sunrise envy the moon. Each fulfills its purpose without apology, and perhaps there is a lesson hidden in that quiet harmony. Human beings were never designed to flourish through comparison. They flourish through authenticity. Authenticity asks for courage because it refuses to hide behind masks. It invites you to stand where your imperfections are visible and still believe that you deserve respect. It reminds you that vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. Sometimes vulnerability is strength wearing its most honest face. To admit that you have stumbled, to acknowledge that you are still learning, to embrace the unfinished parts of yourself without shame. These are acts of remarkable bravery. The heart grows lighter when it no longer carries the impossible burden of pretending. There is freedom in saying, "I am still becoming." There is peace in admitting that growth is not a straight path, but a winding road filled with unexpected turns. Some lessons arrive gently, while others arrive disguised as disappointment. Some teachers appear as friends, while others appear as hardships. Yet each experience leaves behind something valuable if you are willing to receive it. The seasons of life have their own wisdom. Spring teaches renewal without demanding perfection. Summer teaches abundance without permanence. Autumn reminds us that letting go can be beautiful, and winter quietly proves that even what appears lifeless is often preparing for another beginning. The human spirit moves through similar seasons. There are moments of blooming, moments of harvest, moments of release, and moments of quiet restoration. None of them diminish your worth. Each one reveals another dimension of your resilience. Perhaps that is why hope survives even after disappointment. Hope is not blind to reality. It simply refuses to believe that reality is the whole story. It sees broken pieces and imagines restoration. It sees closed doors and continues searching for another path. It sees weary hearts and still believes they are capable of loving again. Hope is less a feeling than a faithful companion that walks beside those who refuse to surrender to despair. And with every step, something within continues to awaken. The fear that once demanded silence begins to lose its authority. The doubts that once filled every quiet moment no longer sound like absolute truth. In their place grows a steady confidence, not loud, not boastful, but deeply rooted. It is the confidence of someone who has stopped asking whether they belong and has begun living as though they always did. So, when you leave this place today, I hope you carry more than inspiration. I hope you carry a decision to stop negotiating with your own value. A decision to stop handing your identity to people who have never taken the time to know your heart. A decision to stand in your truth, even when your voice shakes. And to keep walking. Even when the road asks everything of you, the world will continue to offer opinions. It will try to measure you by numbers, titles, mistakes, appearances, and moments that never told your whole story. Let it. The world has always been quick to judge what it has been slow to understand. But you must never confuse someone else's perception with your reality. You are not defined by the doors that closed, the dreams that took longer than expected, or the people who failed to see your light. You are defined by your willingness to rise one more time than you fell, to love when bitterness seemed easier, to hope when despair knocked at your door, and to believe in your own worth long before the world ever applauded it. And if tomorrow brings another challenge, meet it with your head held high. If life asks you to begin again, begin with courage. If doubt whispers that you are not enough, answer it with the life you choose to live. Walk into every room knowing that your presence is not an apology. It is a gift. Let your kindness remain strong, your integrity remain unshaken, and your spirit remain impossible to diminish. Because one day, someone who is struggling to believe in themselves will see the way you carry your life, the way you rise after every setback, the way you refuse to let hardship define you, and they will find the courage to stand because you stood first. That is how worth becomes legacy. That is how one awakened soul quietly changes the lives of many. So never forget this. Your worth was never waiting at the finish line. It was never hidden inside a promotion, a relationship, a compliment, or a crowd of people saying your name. It has been with you from your very first breath, and it will remain with you through every triumph, every failure, every season, and every new beginning. Walk boldly. Speak truthfully. Love generously. Rise relentlessly. And from this day forward, never again ask the world to tell you who you are. Live in such a way that your life becomes the answer. Thank you.